All right. Well, good afternoon, good
Hello, all.
morning. It might be 3 a.m., so good early morning, whatever time it is that you're listening to this. This is the Lighthouse podcast.
Yes. Ask the blind guys. Ask the blind people. But
Ask the blind guys and gals. Although
yes,
there's no gals
everybody,
here today.
well, not today, but next time. Certainly is a possibility. But thank you guys for joining us out there, whether you're listening to us on a podcast or YouTube or live. Thank you.
Thank you. So, what is Ask the Blind Guys? This is a chance for people to email us questions throughout the month, and then at the end of the month, usually the last Wednesday of the month, we uh, answer questions that were sent in. Um, and it could be friends, family members, coworkers, really anybody that maybe they have something they just. I'm embarrassed to ask this. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It can be anonymous, and so yeah, we welcome all of your questions.
Yes, most definitely. And I tell you, when I was sighted, I know looking back, if I had encountered someone who was blind, I'm sure I would have had a lot of questions, but many of them would have gone unspoken because of just the concerns of, hey, well, is this inbounds or how do you do this if you're blind? So that's kind of the spirit of this is to, field those questions like Sean was saying.
If you do have questions in the future that you'd like to send in to the program, you can email them to AskTheBlindGuys at lighthousefw.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yes. Yes, yes. Please like us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, and you'll get notifications when these videos go up there as well.
Just like us everywhere. Can't hurt.
We like to be liked. Please. All right. Well, with all that aside, do we have any questions, Sean?
Well, I do. I have a couple here. And the first one, it's kind of general though, but what social media platforms do you use the most? And what's something you wish sighted people would do to improve your experience on social media? For me, I use Facebook and Twitter, and gosh, I've been on Facebook since I want to say 2009. When did you get on Facebook, Kevin?
Oh, so what was last month? I'm kidding. No, I've been on Facebook on and off for a very long time, but it's probably was when I was in college is when I discovered it. That was around 2009, I believe.
Okay.
2007, yeah, that's when I went on there, and it was popular, not nearly as popular as it is now, but I was intrigued by it. Like I had heard so much from my other college student friends about this thing called Facebook, and I was like, Facebook? Why is it called Facebook? And what's the purpose of it? So it was kind of cool in the beginning to learn about it. But my question was, well, since I'm a screen reader user, just what kind of compatibility are we talking about with it, right?
Yeah, and that of course would have been the days of using JAWS and on the computer. Of course, that was about the birth year of the iPhone as well. Um, so Facebook works really well with Facebook on the computer, on the iPad, iPhone, just about any platform out there. And so one of the things I think is most helpful is what's called alt tags, and those are descriptions that you can add to your pictures that explain what is in the picture. So some of our assistive technology has gotten pretty smart to where it'll say something like two people
People
and
and
food,
food,
Mm-hmm.
but
but
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
tell
tell
you
you
what the food is or what the people look like or what they're wearing or where they're at, that kind of thing. And so an alt tag can solve that. It's text that people can write into a photo description.
I've noticed that on some Facebook images that have memes that the memes are actually read by voiceover, and I don't know if that's related to the alt tag that you're describing, Sean, or if that's just something that they've improved.
So no, that's actually a function of both Facebook and VoiceOver and or JAWS on a computer.
Yes.
Facebook has a API built in to their website that it's basically like it runs OCR, optical character recognition, on the picture, and then displays the text in the picture to screen readers and such. So that is that's recent. That's probably in the last
Yes.
year or two, and that is really wonderful.
It's remarkable. I discovered it. I think I had noticed it a long time ago, but for some reason the light bulb didn't come on, and not that long ago I realized, wait a minute, that's a meme, and it was able to pull that text out of the meme immediately and read it out loud. I was very impressed with that. I don't know. For me, I think Sean's a little bit more prolific with Facebook than I am, but when I do use it, I think I prefer the mobile app on the iPhone compared to most, because I just like the way the voiceover interacts with the app. How about you, Sean? Are you more of a JAWS?
It depends. I guess it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm on the computer, I'll use the web browser.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're all on our phones all the time, right?
Yes.
So,
What did we ever do as blind people
what did
before
we do
the
without a phone?
iPhone? Without yes.
It does so many things. Plus, it's a phone.
Yeah, it just happens to be a phone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's like 1% of what it does. Yes. I think it bears discussion about the mobile website m.facebook.com. I find that works fairly well with JAWS compared to the standard. Although I don't know, Sean, do you use both interchangeably?
I do, and I didn't for the longest time. The longest time I'd use the m.facebook.com, which is the mobile version. That's the one that was created for really for mobile devices before in advent of apps. And
Yeah.
but they've really done some amazing work with. If you're on a Google Chrome with JAWS and you go to facebook.com, you can navigate through the headings on the page.
Mm-hmm.
It's very user friendly. And I'll tell you what's really neat is that you can be on the page and someone say sends you a message on Facebook Messenger, and your screen reader automatically reads the message, and or if something updates on the page, it's automatically read. You'll have to try it.
Wow. I have to say that for my social media preference is probably YouTube. I have spent an embarrassing amount of time on YouTube in my life over the past several years because there's so much content on YouTube. It's such a creative endeavor for a lot of people who make videos, and there's content to be found there just about anything that really matches your interest. And the nice thing about the YouTube algorithm is that it when you open it up, it shows videos that are very similar to your priorly viewed videos, and you can also subscribe to channels and keep up to date with what other content through that. And there's countless videos on YouTube. I think I spend more time watching YouTube than I actually ever have watching TV. So
Yeah, and gosh, you can find anything on YouTube. I mean, whether it's, you know, entertainment or
mhm.
even music. I mean, if you're just looking for an old song to listen to, um, even whether it's live music, I mean, it's just, every once in a while, somebody will mention some local band, and that's the first place to go.
Hmm. It's also helpful for if you're wanting to learn how to do something practical. Perhaps there's usually somebody on YouTube who's done a video about how to do something, whether it's a home repair or it's some other item out there, step by step. It's almost a guarantee. I have a brother of mine who is kind of a hobby slash side business. He repairs lawnmowers, and one day I called him up and I asked him, "How's it going? What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm on YouTube right now, and I'm looking up how to repair this lawnmower that I got here in front of me." And I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty creative." And so he was using that as a way of technically troubleshooting that problem that he was having, and so there's a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, my dad's the same way. He'll look up a do-it-yourself project on YouTube. Um, yeah, it's a great platform, and you can easily subscribe to channels, and there's there's a lot of blind contributors, and
Yes, there is. Yeah, one comes to mind. Name of it, I believe it's Tommy Edison. Do you know that name, Sean?
you've told me about him.
He is a blind movie reviewer. Uh, that's some. That's one part of his content, and he does other things too as well. But I think there are other YouTube creators who are do pretty well on YouTube.
All
But
right, let's move on here. Um, this next question should get your get get your creative spirit going.
creative spirit.
What's the most Daredevil thing you've done, and why?
Most Daredevil thing you've done and why? Well, I think it depends on who you ask, right? Sometimes people, whether they might define that, would be different than someone else. Sometimes somebody newly blind will walking out of their door by themselves for the first time, independently using their cane could be, at that point in their life, like this is the most risky thing I've ever done to this point in my life. I know that for me, that was perhaps how I felt many, many years ago. But I don't know, Sean. For me, I, I feel sometimes as somebody who's blind, you have to kind of challenge yourself every once in a while to do something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone. There's a few examples I could give, but one example for me a few years ago was I I was up in New Mexico with my wife, and we were in uh, up at this mountain. It was the Sandias near Santa Fe, and we went on a hike. And this mountain, the actual trail is about 8 miles, and it's very steep incline, and we don't really have a whole lot, to support yourself other than maybe a hiking pole and my cane. So then that's what I did. It was I used both my white cane and I had a hiking pole. So I would plant the hiking pole down. That way I was anchored, and then I would sweep with my cane and follow behind my wife. And I didn't do the whole trail. I only got to a certain point, maybe did about 1/4 of it, and then it came down. Because that's one of those things that you have to start real early in the morning. Otherwise, you could find yourself at the top of the mountain by the time the sun goes down, and that could open up a whole new set of challenges. But I remember coming back down the mountain. It was challenging, more challenging than going up, because when you go down this this trail along the side of the mountain, you have gravity pulling at you. So it's a little harder to get your balance. So actually, what happened, the long and short of it, is I tripped and I fell, and when I fell forward, my wife was in front of me, and I landed, and there was a rock that I grabbed onto, and off on my left was a 300-foot drop down to another ledge, and then there was another drop below that. And I didn't quite realize what I had gotten myself into, and my wife was quite shocked, and I recovered myself pretty quickly. It reminded me of those old movies when the guy's hanging off the side of the cliff, right? And he's pulling himself over. It was kind of like that. So it was one of those, wow, okay, that just happened. So that's one example for me, but perhaps you have one too, Sean.
I do, but I guess it brings to mind a book, also a movie. So y'all may have heard a gentleman named Eric Weinmeyer. I want to say it was back in '99 or 2000 that he was the first blind person to climb Mount Everest, and he's climbed, I believe it's the 7 highest mountains on the 7 continents. I want to say that's right.
Wow.
So, North America, Africa, which I believe is Kilimanjaro, Everest is in, I forget where. China. Wow. I know it's close to China. Right. Anyway, I've read his book, and so when he's going to this mountain, they're all roped together, and the guy in front of him's wearing bells, and he's basically following the rope, but also following his teammate. And so right before they get to the top of Everest, there's this, I don't know if you call it a ledge, but it's a thing that's about 1.5 feet wide for about, 50 yards. And there's a 10,000-foot drop on either side.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
And God, I just don't. I didn't know how you.
Well, that's one way to peak your career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he is incredible to me, and people look at us sometimes and they go, "Gosh, you work, you do this, you do that, you're amazing." I think you don't want to build up walls around what you can't do. You want to figure out a way to do it and go do it.
Yeah. Because it's so easy to talk yourself out of doing things when you're blind. I've found over the years, it's it said, well, what if I do this, then that? Sometimes in the beginning, especially, you imagine, the worst possible thing that could happen to you when you're blind if you do, this, or if you experiment with that. And so, but over time, you're saying, Sean, I think you become a little desensitized to it. You just are accustomed to getting up and doing it. Whether it be crossing a street or working or having a family. You just don't think about them because you've kind of created your own new normal, right?
Right. Your own, plateau, your own summit, whatever it may be.
All right, those are good questions.
All right. Moving along here, we had an idea to add what we're calling Exhibit A. And so Exhibit A is these round speaker devices that we don't call them out by name.
I think so much earlier, the name that shall not be mentioned.
Right. He who must not be named, or
yeah, something like that, or she who must not be named.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hopefully each month we'll find a new skill or something that is pretty cool. We found this just last weekend by accident. So Mindy, my wife, was talking to Exhibit A, and then when she was done, she like whispered something. Mindy whispered something like to herself, and Exhibit A responded and said, "I think you just whispered to me. If you want, I could whisper back." So let's see here. Let's see if this will work in this virtual environment. Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 4:35 p.m.
That's very discreet.
So, it's 3 a.m. in the morning and you're listening to the Lighthouse podcast / YouTube, and you want to know what time it is, but you don't want to wake up the whole household. You enable this feature, and you can do that. Let's see. Let's try this. Alexa, what's the weather?
Right now in Fort Worth, it's 91 degrees Fahrenheit, cloudy skies. Tonight's forecast has just a few clouds in the sky, with a low of 79 degrees.
That's it's almost like she's whispering right into your ear. Of course, we are wearing headphones, so there's that. Yeah, so we hope every time we do this to have a little Exhibit A segment, and who knows, maybe we'll add some other tech tidbits along the way for other things too.
Yeah. And shortly here, when we open up for questions, we do want suggestions on segments to add.
Yes.
To this, so
because ultimately, you guys are, this is, why we do what we do is because of you and your interest and your contributions. So,
yep, y'all are our live focus group.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and open it up for questions? I think we said earlier to raise your hand. It is Alt-Y on the computer.
So Alt-Y on the computer. You can also press Alt-A to mute / unmute yourself once you're called on. So if Rebecca's not unable to unmute you, you can do so with Alt-A. If you're dialed in via phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute/unmute. On the mobile devices, iPhone, Android, iPads, it is more in the bottom right corner. There is mute/raise your hand in there as well.
Yeah. So we'll take a few questions here, and then shortly we're going to just mute everybody to make sure that there's nobody that we missed. That as we were describing there's a lot of moving parts, so we certainly don't want anybody to have technical problems to not be able to ask a question.
Tracy, I saw your hand up earlier. Do you
Yes.
still have a question?
Yes, in YouTube, do I is there a search field for whatever type of YouTube video I'm interested in?
Certainly
So
is.
if it's and can I just do blind talk, or and would that pull up all types?
It would.
Okay.
It would pull up a treasure trove. In fact, if you do it, you can do it with JAWS. You can go to YouTube's website and you could use your edit key, hit E for the edit field, or your forms field key. Or if you're on the YouTube app, which is what I prefer to use it on, you can go to the
YouTube
top.
app, is that on your phone?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's on the iPhone or iPad. And you can go to the top left corner of the screen. There is a search tab there, and you can search to whatever it is you're looking for. I mean, maybe you find some content out there. Maybe you find a channel that has content related to blindness from which you can learn more information. Those basically are channels, and they have different names, different types, but they're usually, when you pull up the video, if you scroll through it, it'll list the name of the channel, and then it'll say subscribe. If you click the subscribe button, you'll get notified when there's a new video. Also, if you double tap on the title of the channel, it'll pull up the channel itself, and in there are menus for playlists, videos, recent or otherwise. You can kind of go through their whole repertoire and dig deep into what they have. But it is, I mean, I can't imagine how many videos must be on YouTube now.
It is so many, yes. And I'm confused on how to get to it. So I really thank you so much, because there are so many. Yes. And they all sound interesting.
And let me give you another tip on YouTube/iPhone that this will definitely make things easier, especially if you use Lady S, Siri. You can say Google YouTube Billy Joel or something to that effect, and the links she brings up are 99% of the time YouTube. So once you hit that link, and also if you have the YouTube app installed, it goes right there.
Oh, wow, that is cool. And then you can even watch TV shows or can you do any searches rather than using browsers?
Oh, yeah.
In YouTube. You could do it in YouTube instead of any browser. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and also there's a cool feature too, y'all, that you have to do it. I have a Fire Stick at home connected to my television, and there's an option where I can watch on YouTube on my phone. I can make that appear on my actual television and watch it on my TV as well.
With the Fire Stick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe you can do, I think there might even be a Lady A skill for YouTube.
There is, yeah. I've yet to do it, but you can certainly open up that Pandora's box as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plenty of choices.
I use Lady A all the time.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Do you just tell her to open YouTube or open something specific? Okay.
Yeah. If she can't do it, she'll tell you.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Thanks,
Another
Tracy.
question.
Oh.
Another question. Do I heard tonight that Firefox might be a new browser or a browser. Is there anything other than Firefox, Google, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Bing? Is there any other browser?
Not that's mainstream.
Okay.
I mean, if
I need
there
it to work with JAWS.
there might be others, but that's probably not going to work with JAWS. So
Okay. So Firefox might be my best bet to go to.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
What are some of the most daredevil things some of you guys out there have done?
I'm afraid to ask.
Uh-oh. I'm sure Bob may have a story or two.
No, I'm pretty chicken. I think probably the most daredevil thing I did was water skiing.
Water skiing. I've yet to do that myself. So how did that go?
Well, it took a little practice, but at first I just rode the wake for a while and wondered why in the world would anybody want to do this, until I finally got knocked off and somebody told me, "Hey, you're not supposed to stay back there right in the middle of the wake." And so I practiced maneuvering some, each time when it was my turn. And one time I finally got to the point where I stayed up until I was ready to quit and just let go of the rope and coasted to a stop and settled in the water. That one was a success, and I about had enough of it after that.
Well, at least you could check that off the list, all right?
We have a couple of hands raised.
Yeah.
Let's see. Go ahead, Liz.
Hey, I didn't really think of it as Daredevil at the time because we'd always gone tubing down the river in San Marcos, but I missed the exit before you go down the mini waterfalls and lost my tube and everything and ended up on the wrong side of the river, and my husband was trying to come get me because he couldn't hear me yell back across the river. Yeah, he almost drowned. I was fine. I found some people that were going to help me get back across to the other side of the river, but he couldn't hear me because the water was really high that year. So I'm not allowed to go tubing down the river when the water's high anymore, so that I don't drown people. I had a blast. I mean, there was 3 little mini waterfalls to go down. Okay, so I lost my tube on the first one, but I was willing to keep going because I was born and raised in Minnesota, and lakes are kind of the thing up there.
Yeah,
so
right.
I wasn't afraid of nothing, but my husband was trying to come get me, and it was pretty rapid, and so he had to wait till I got help to come back to the other side because it wasn't we went way down further where it wasn't as rapid, so that I could get across without getting pulled further down the river. But it was fun, I thought.
Very good. That's interesting.
I think we had another hand raised, Rebecca.
We do. It's Tracy again. Go ahead, Tracy.
Hey, I have gone on the back of George's motorcycle many times, many years, and once we were in Arkansas. We were up on a mountain called Pettigene Mountain, and we did a lot of hiking, and there were a lot of edges to that hiking, and so George said, "Watch out for the snake." I almost jumped off that mountain. And then we were coming back down the mountain on the motorcycle, and there was like a tornado and storm that came up in front of us. It knocked down a tree in front of us. We got into a ditch because the wind kept trying to knock over the motorcycle. So we got into this ditch and kind of squatted down and waited for the storm to pass, but the ditch started filling up with water.
Oh.
So we had to then get back on the motorcycle and keep going. But a tree had fallen over a little ways in front of us. So George had to maneuver the motorcycle around that tree and in on the other side, and then come back and get me. And by the time we got back to the motel, of course, the sun was shining and the rain had quit, and we were sopped. Then another time in when I lived in North Dakota, we went to Ski for Light, of course, and I was my ski guide that year. He said, you want to do any downhill skiing? And I said, of course I do. So that's way easier than cross country skiing. And so Kevin, like you, he sang in front of me the whole way down. But then whenever I got too close to an edge, then he would get in front of me and then just stop me. And that was the only way that I didn't go over the side instead of following him down the mountain as he sang to me. So those were two kind of risky.
So what did he sing to you?
He sang everything, and he sang terrible.
Oh, well, so that's my next question.
It was terrible, but it was loud. So
But
I
it
could
was
hear it.
loud. That's all.
Yes.
That's all that matters. You could echolocate.
Yes, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
Kevin, that's a good idea. We should reach out and get someone to come on Sport Group from Ski for Light.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I have
Yes.
somebody in mind that may not be from Ski from Life, but does.
I've always wanted to do that. I know what you're talking about, but I've heard of this ski. Is it Ski for Life or Light?
Mm,
One of the two. Anyway,
yeah, I always thought it was Ski for Light, but I'm not for sure.
in fact, Chelsea, who was on here last month, she's done that number of years. So yeah, that'd be good.
I've even heard of people nowadays that they have headphones for their guide, and so they talk and they do absolute racing up here in Pittsburgh and
cool.
all over. Yeah, and they're blind and totally blind, and they do racing and downhill racing, and their guide is of course in front of them or behind them, talking to them as they're heading down that mountain.
I'd
And
totally
they wear headphones. Yep,
Now, racing, you mean skiing or
downhill ski racing.
downhill ski? Right. Wow.
Yes, and they do that. I was like, man, I am in the wrong spot. I need to go up there and try that, but I don't know.
Watch out for that tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. The last time I skied, I did run into a tree.
Oh, yeah.
But it was fine. Don't I didn't hurt the tree, and it didn't
Good.
hurt me. So that's what matters.
Go ahead and like us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have a question for Ask the Blind Guys, send it to AskTheBlindGuys at lighthousefw.org. If you have questions, need help with something, give us a call, 817-332-3341. Ask for Kevin, Sean. We'll take care of it.
All right.
Well,
I'll
along
be
with
careful
the,
out there.